If you follow every single step in this video and play consistently over the next few months, I can guarantee you'll hit Immortal. Hitting Immortal for the first time is an incredible feeling. When reaching this rank, you'll comfortably be within the top 2% of active players, meaning that you're objectively very good at Valorant. But hitting the rank takes consistency, focused playtime, and of course patience. Today, I'll teach you everything you need to know to reach it as fast as humanly possible. The first major flaw I see in the majority of players is that they have an incredibly inconsistent understanding of the duels they're taking. When you take a duel in a ranked game, do you know whether or not you're giving yourself a high chance of winning that duel? Or do you just take it based on your intuition? Most players take duels based on what feels right or what they believe might be right, even though they're not actually sure if they have an advantage or not. This is a massive problem you need to eliminate if you want to reach Immortal quickly. Now, the million-dollar question is, how do you consistently take duels where you have a way higher chance of winning than the opponent? The easy to understand answer is to hold angles from an off angle, where your opponent likely won't pre-aim, and wait for your enemy to swing. This sounds painfully obvious, but if you just do this time and time again, obviously not from the same angle so it becomes obvious, but from different spots on the map you're playing, you'll like 95% of the time go heavily positive in the games you're playing, given that you have an alright level of aim and movement. The issue for thousands of players is that they may do exactly what I'm talking about, holding an off angle patiently, and when an opponent swings, they go down. And because of that, they may think their position and play was bad. This is completely 100% wrong. And if you think like this, you're nerfing your own potential tremendously, because you're telling your brain not to make that play ever again, even though it was subjectively super good and would have worked 8 out of 10 times. Taking good duels consistently is super easy, but you have to understand that you won't survive every round even though you're taking great duels. But you will for certain have more impact in your games, get a way better KD, and rank up ridiculously much faster compared to if you have an inconsistent understanding of the duels you're taking. Moving on to something that makes Valorant a ton easier is having as low input delay and high frames as possible. When you feel like your pointing and shooting is completely instantaneous, the game feels incredibly smooth and honestly a lot easier compared to when you feel the input delay or unstable frames. The awesome thing is that getting high FPS and super low input delay is easier than ever with the program Hone. To download Hone, you can either go to the Epic Games Store and download it completely for free, or check it out through the link in the description or the pinned comment. When it's downloaded, go through the installation process. Then you'll have to sign in or make an account. When the program opens up, you'll see a long list of optimizations. They also have detailed descriptions under each and every one, so you know exactly what you're doing when turning one on. For example, here you can see they have an option to turn on Hone Gaming Mode, and slightly lower down, they have a setting called Optimize Memory Management, which is an awesome setting for smoother performance. In addition to this, they have game-specific tweaks, so if I head to the left-hand side here and go down to Games and click in on Valorant, I can activate Best Performance, which will super quickly optimize my PC. If any one of the tweaks don't feel worth it to you, then you're just one click away from disabling them. When I use Hone, the input delay is noticeably much better, and so are my frames. The beauty of it all is that it's free to use, but with a slight caveat of only 10 free optimizations. With Premium, you get unlimited optimizations and no ads. Hone has been a long-time partner of mine, and I genuinely love their software. Check it out in the description below, the pinned comment, or the Epic Games Store. Now, the most important thing we need to understand in order to reach Immortal is how to improve much faster than others. There are 3 main ways to accomplish almost inhumanly fast improvement, and if you follow all 3, you'll already be in the top 1% of players in terms of fast improvement. Because the massive problem almost everyone has is that they follow one of the practice methods, but not all 3, making their practice more ineffective than it can be. Firstly, and the one almost everyone knows, we have putting in more time than anyone else. This is an obvious practice method. By playing longer hours consistently, you'll be getting more reps in than others, and as a result, you'll become more well-rounded and overall better. Secondly, we have focusing on quality practice. If I play 4 hours a day against really good players who punish, so to say, all my mistakes, so that I get a constant feedback loop of what I need to improve at, I'll become infinitely better compared to if I play team deathmatch against players who are somewhat new to the game. On this topic, I actually need to give you guys some of the best Valorant advice phrase you'll ever hear. And I'm not sure whether or not people really talk about this, but when playing deathmatch and team deathmatch, the difference in skill on your region's servers is massive. I'm from Europe and I live in Spain. And if I queue into a DM or team DM on Madrid, I'll almost win every single one. And the opponents will be embarrassingly bad 95% of the time. Often bots are even playing in the lobbies since they would take too long to fill if not. And these players and bots won't really punish my mistakes at all. Whereas if I queue into Frankfurt, I'll meet players who's almost exclusively in Immortal and Radiant. And these players will punish my mechanical mistakes to 100 times higher degree than the silver players and bots I'll meet on Madrid. The reason it works like this is because Valorant obviously needs to fill their DM lobbies. And the skill-based matchmaking isn't strict on the sub-servers in your region. Whereas on your main server of, for example, Frankfurt, there are way more players and you actually get good competition. So what I'm saying here is you need to find the server in your region that has the most players, because playing DM, team DM, whatever, on that server will have the highest skill level, and that means that the practice will be of the highest quality. If a new player played 1,000 hours of deathmatch exclusively on Madrid and another player played 1,000 hours of deathmatch on Frankfurt, the skill difference of these players would be enormous. The Madrid player would likely be silver, and the Frankfurt player would easily be diamond or ascendant. So every time you play deathmatch, you need to make sure you play on the server where the opponents are of the highest caliber, even if your ping is somewhat higher. Over time, these few daily deathmatches against good players compounds into you becoming a super well-rounded mechanical player with solid movement and great aim. Whereas that isn't true when you're playing against bots and silvers on a server where almost no one plays. The third way to improve incredibly fast is having a deliberate method of practice. Playing on autopilot every single day is one of the worst ways to play, and certainly a terrible method if you want to rank up fast. You need to constantly figure out ways to improve your weaknesses. Your abilities as a player are like a roller coaster. One month you're insane utility wise, then the next month somehow your aim is now your best attribute, then the next month your game sense is almost flawless. Your goal when playing is to even out the fundamentals of Valorant. You see, the problem almost every player face who never reach Immortal is that they get to a point where they are more than good enough at one aspect of the game. They can have Immortal level aim, game sense, or clutch ability, but if their utility is awful, they rage after every round they lose, and they make the team feel terrible when they make a mistake, they simply can't reach the rank. In order to become a player who's objectively great at this game, you need to consistently be a well-rounded player, like I've talked about 50 times, and it's so much easier than people think. If you always warm up properly before your ranked matches, try your actual hardest in the games you play, regardless of score, and say things like nice try to your teammates. Hitting Immortal will over time be inevitable. The majority of Valorant players are extremely far from well-rounded, simply because they never think about it. What I like to do is think about what I consider the 7 fundamentals of Valorant and give myself a score from 1 to 10 on all 7. You can do it right now in your head, as I'll quickly mention all of them. We have aim, movement, truly understanding your role, game sense, effective utility usage, having a good mentality consistently, and clear communication. Right there you have what I personally consider the fundamentals of this game. And if you can get all of these up to an objective 8 out of 10, you'll be Immortal easily. And you'll also likely get into high Immortal quite quickly when you fix your flaws. Next up, I'm gonna talk about something that you can literally start using today, and I can almost for certain say that you'll climb a ton of RR over the next week alone, and that is using the momentum strategy. Here's the thing, for the longest time I was insanely confused about one thing. One day I hopped on, started the day dropping like 30 kills, having the game of my life. Every duel went exactly how I thought, and the game honestly felt easy, and I didn't do anything differently than the day prior. But then hopping on a game the day after an amazing day, I could have an insanely bad day where I would just think, why am I playing? I'm washed, what's wrong with me? Even though I was thinking the exact same way about the game when I was in it. Why in the world does that happen? Well, for me, the simple reason was just not warming up properly at all. And I didn't understand until super late that some days require a warm-up that is 5 times longer than normal. But when I got the mentality that I absolutely must make sure that the odds are heavily in my favor to pop off my first match, I climbed RR like never before. Not fully locking in and having what people call a warm-up game of ranked is for me the most stupid mentality quality ever if your goal is climbing RR as fast as possible. I also want to add that I've understood over the years that literally just having 10% better aim on one day compared to another can be the difference between MVPing 3 games in a row and basically bottom fragging. The margins are so much smaller than people think. So when you have an off day, it's not like you're actually terrible. It's just that you may be 10% reduced because you slept bad, ate terrible, or have a lot on your mind. Here's what I recommend. You should warm up until you genuinely feel true confidence in your mechanics. Not just mindlessly doing 15 minutes because some YouTuber told you to, or hopping into ranked because you're bored of warming up. For me, warming up takes somewhere between 15 minutes to an hour. Make sure you warm up until your shots actually feel clean. And then capitalize on that momentum by hopping into ranked and playing again and again when you're having a good day. Because those are the sessions where you'll see the most progress. Not only in your RR, but also your skill as a player. For this next tip, I need to talk about having a death protocol every single time you go down in a round. This right here over time compounds more than anything else. A death protocol is essentially just immediately asking yourself why you died. And this is absolutely critical if you want to reach Immortal fast. If you died because of bad aim, you say to yourself, I need to improve my aim. I should play more deathmatch. If you died because you weren't patient enough, you say to yourself, next time I'm gonna be more patient. If you died because your crosshair placement was terrible, you make a note of that. The list goes on and on. To really paint the picture as to just how important this is, imagine 2 players, player A and player B. Player A understands the importance of always, without exception, following his death protocol. This means that in the span of a single game, he might identify 15 different things he needs to work on. Player B, on the other hand, only thinks about why he died maybe 1 out of 3 times, because the other 2 times he blames his death on unlucky timing, the opponent smurfing, getting shot through a smoke, his teammates not trading him, or anything else in that category. In the span of a game, player B only identifies 5 points of improvement. Over time, there's absolutely no denying that player A will become significantly better than player B, even if they play the exact same amount of hours. The difference in their improvement speed will be exponential because player A is getting quality feedback from every single death, whereas player B is only getting that feedback occasionally. So if your improvement has slowed down recently and you want to once again get that euphoric feeling of rapid improvement, make sure you implement a strict death protocol. This is seriously one of the easiest ways to improve faster than the vast majority of players, and it requires almost no extra effort. You're just changing your mindset about deaths. The beautiful thing about having a death protocol is that it completely eliminates the embarrassing mindset of blaming external factors. Focus on the things you can improve. Improve your positioning, your crosshair placement, your awareness, and your decision making. By focusing exclusively on what you can control, you put yourself in a position to actually get better rather than just complaining. Now, for tip 6, we have genuinely one of the most important principles for reaching Immortal, and definitely something that separates high-level players from everyone else. And that is trusting your intuition over your teammates in clutch situations. Let me again paint you a picture. And this time, I'm gonna talk about something that I guarantee has happened to you multiple times. You're left in a 1v2 or 1v3 clutch situation. You've just planted a spike and you're playing post plant. You hear footsteps coming from CT on whatever map you're playing. Your brain, your intuition, your gut feeling is screaming at you to peek the angle right now and take the favorable 1v1 while you know exactly where one opponent is. But then your teammate who died early in the round starts backseating. He's telling you to play it slowly, hide in a different position, wait for them to come to you. This situation is genuinely difficult if you're not experienced, because there's a feeling of pressure to listen to your teammates. If you peek and lose the 1v1, chances are extremely high your teammate will question what you're doing, maybe even flame you. He might say something annoying like, I literally told you to play safe. Why didn't you listen? But here's the thing. If you don't peek and you listen to your teammates instead of yourself, you're not trusting the only player you'll be playing 100% of your games with. Intuition and game sense, although not entirely the same thing, go hand in hand, especially in clutch situations. In 1vx situations, you sometimes have to make educated guesses about where players are rotating from. You have to take calculated risks, and you have to make split-second decisions. If you consistently trust your intuition in these moments, you'll develop it to an incredibly high degree over time. You'll learn what risks you can take and which ones you can't. Whereas if you don't trust your intuition, if you constantly let your teammates dictate your decisions in clutches, you're playing a game style that isn't even yours. You're essentially letting other people play the game for you. And this will absolutely cause you to plateau at a rank lower than what you're actually capable of reaching. I'm gonna be brutally honest with you, some of your teammates in solo queue are going to be significantly worse players than you. They might have terrible game sense but good aim or vice versa. Taking advice from a teammate who has worse intuition than you is is actually handicapping yourself. So here's my advice. The next time you're in a 1v3 and your brain is telling you to swing an angle and take a quick 1v1, you do it. Trust yourself, even if your teammate is screaming in your ear. The worst case scenario is you lose the clutch and your teammate flames you for 10 seconds. The best case scenario is you win the clutch, prove your intuition was correct, and more importantly long term, you develop that intuition to be even sharper for next time. Over hundreds of games, the player who consistently trusts their intuition will win significantly more clutches than the player who constantly second guesses themselves or listens to their bottom fragger that's backseating. It's that simple. Moving on to something that helped me win probably 30 or 40 extra games on my journey to Immortal back in the day, and that is having an elite level comeback mentality. Now, this comes in two parts that are equally important. First, we have never giving up when you're down a lot of rounds. How many times have you been down 9-3 or 10-2 after the first half and you just mentally gave up? Maybe you started thinking about the next game already. Maybe you started playing completely brainlessly instead of playing to win. Some people, not saying this is me, even start trolling a little bit because they think the game was over anyway. Here's the thing that I realized one day when I was down 10-2. I had already spent like 20 minutes in this match. Was I really gonna spend 20 minutes of my valuable time just to not even try to make a comeback? Do I seriously have that much time to waste? The answer was obviously no. When I realized this, my entire mentality shifted. Even when down 10-2, I would try to hype my team up. I'd say things like, let's at least do our best in the pistol and take it from there. Or, it would be so funny to come back this game. Let's just try. Just some simple and somewhat positive words. Obviously, the majority of the time when you're down 10-2, your team will still be demotivated and definitely won't try their absolute hardest. But occasionally, that small sentence of encouragement would spark something in my teammates. We'd win pistol, gain some momentum, and suddenly we're down 10-5, then 10-7, then 11-10, and sometimes we'd actually complete the comeback. I promise you, I have won dozens of games that I would never have won if I had the mentality I had in my first 100 hours of playing ranked. Back then, I would honestly just give up mentally and wait for the game to end. Now, I try my best until the last round is over, no matter what. But here's the second part of the comeback mentality, and this is a hack that I used constantly when solo queuing. When my team was down 8-4, 9-3, or even 10-2, and I could tell my teammates were getting demotivated, guys, I literally just came back a game from 10-2 the game before this. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, like 99% of the time I said this, it was a complete lie. But here's what matters. That one sentence would kind of hype up my team. It gave them hope. It made them think, well, if this guy just did it last game, maybe we can do it too. And then we'd win a round, gain momentum, and suddenly the comeback felt possible. Because of this single sentence, this small little lie, I believe I won an extra 30 games on my climb to Immortal. Games I absolutely would have lost if I hadn't tried to change my team's mentality. So if you're ever down heavily after a half, try it. Say you just came back from an even worse score recently. You won't lose anything by saying it, and here and there, you'll actually get some insane comebacks. Next up, I need to talk about something that will make your climb to Immortal not only faster, but also way more enjoyable. And that is finding a good duo partner to queue with consistently. The bad thing about solo queue is that it is very random. One game, you might get 4 teammates who are all having great days, communicate well, and play as a team. The next game, you might get someone who's tilted from their last 3 losses, someone who doesn't use their mic at all, and someone who's playing a role they're not comfortable with. When you have a duo partner, especially one who's equally motivated to reach Immortal, you immediately eliminate one of those random variables. You now have at least one person on your team that you know you can rely on, who you have synergy with, and who won't tilt or give up when things get difficult. The best ways to find duo partners are on Twitter and on Discord. On these platforms, people are way more serious about the game compared to the random teammates you'll meet in solo queue matchmaking. These are people actively seeking to improve, actively looking for teammates, and usually grinding ranked consistently. Finding a duo is honestly super simple. Just search on Twitter for things like LF Duo Ascendant, or looking for duo partner to grind to Immortal. You can also join Discord servers for Valorant ranked grinding. There are tons of them with LFG channels where people post their rank, role, and what they're looking for in a duo. Obviously, the ideal situation is finding someone you click with, who you can play with every single day. Someone who's just as motivated as you are, who has a good mentality, and who plays at similar times. When you find someone like this, the grind to Immortal becomes way more fun because you're doing it together. But don't be scared to play with new people either. If someone doesn't work out after a few games, that's totally fine. There are thousands of other players out there looking for the same thing you are. I strongly recommend trying out a few different duo partners until you find one where the synergy feels just right. I also don't recommend playing with someone who rages all the time. That just doesn't end well. But trust me on this though, having even just one reliable teammate makes winning games so much easier compared to pure solo queue. This next topic is genuinely one of the most important skills for winning more matches, and something that will single-handedly win you so many extra games on your climb to Immortal. And it will also go much faster. And that is mastering how to play clutch situations correctly. Of course, everyone knows that winning a clutch is good because you secure a round for your team and steal a round from the enemy. But what people don't think about enough is the mental aspect of clutches. When you win a 1v3 or 1v4, you don't just win that one round. You also significantly damage the enemy team's mental state. We've all been on the other side of this. Your team is up players, you lose what should be an easy round, and immediately someone on your team starts flaming. How did we lose that? What are you doing, Jack? The team mental completely crumbles, and suddenly you lose the next 3 rounds in a row because everyone's tilted. So being able to consistently perform in clutch situations is absolutely crucial for climbing ranks. And here's exactly how you do it. The number one mistake I see players making clutches is stressing and thinking they need to make a move quickly. This is completely wrong. When you're left in a clutch, whether it's a 1v2, 1v3, or even 1v5, your first priority should be playing slowly and gathering information. I always recommend taking all the time you need just listening for footsteps. This is so important. In ranked, no matter what rank you are, opponents will almost always get impatient when you're the last one alive. They'll start running around, making noise, pushing for map control. Here's typically what happens when you play patiently. You'll hear some footsteps nearby, which gives you information about where at least one opponent is. Now you can position yourself for a favorable duel. You take that duel, get the kill. Now the enemy team knows where you are, so another opponent will probably try to immediately capitalize on that information and swing you. But if you're ready for it, you'll get another kill. Now suddenly it's a 1v1, 1v2, or 1v3 instead of a 1v4 or 5 or whatever. And the round is very winnable. Comparing this to the player who stresses in clutches, they hear nothing because they immediately start moving and making noise themselves. They peek a random angle hoping to get lucky. They take a duel with no information and just die immediately. The clutch is instantly over. The key to winning clutches is genuinely just being comfortable playing slowly and patiently. Don't let your teammates backseat and pressure you into making a fast play. Take your time, listen, gather information, and when you see an opportunity that feels right, you take it confidently. If you can become the player who stays super calm in clutches, you'll notice your win rate goes up significantly. You'll steal rounds from the enemy team, you'll boost your own team's morale, and you'll climb way faster. The next time you're in a clutch, force yourself to play slowly, even if it feels unnatural at first. Even if your teammates are telling you to hurry up. Take your time, play for information, and trust yourself when an opportunity presents itself. We're gonna wrap up with arguably the most important mentality shift you need to make if you want to reach Immortal or really get good at anything. And that is always blaming yourself for losses and failures. This is going to sound a little bit harsh, but hear me out. In Valorant, you have extremely limited control over how your teammates play. You can't control if they're having a bad day, you can't control if they're tilted from previous games, you can't control their decision making or mechanical skill. The only player you have 100% control over in every single match is yourself. So getting frustrated and angry at teammates for playing poorly, for losing an easy round, or for making a bad call is just a complete waste of mental energy. It doesn't help you improve, it doesn't help your long-term progress, and it definitely doesn't help you win the current game you're in. When I first started playing, I would constantly blame my teammates for losses. We'd lose an easy 4v2 retake, for example, and I'd think, what is my team doing? When I'd top frag a game but would lose the game, I'd think, how am I supposed to win when my team is this bad? But then I had a realization that completely changed my Valorant career. The mentality shift I made was simple. I started blaming myself for absolutely everything. Every game I lose, whether I top frag with 40 kills or bottom frag with 8 kills, I always, without exception, blame myself and look for things I could have done better. Did I die early in too many rounds? That's my fault. Could I have communicated better with my team? My fault. Could I have used my utility more effectively? My bad. Should I have played a different position on defense? My bad again. This may sound like I'm just totally delusional, but here's why this mentality is actually incredibly powerful. It puts you in complete control of your improvement. If everything is your fault, that means in your brain that everything is within your power to fix. You can't fix your teammates, but you can absolutely fix your own gameplay. The player who blames teammates will play 100 games and learn almost nothing, because they never take responsibility for their mistakes. The player who blames themselves will play 100 games and improve dramatically, because they're constantly identifying what they did wrong and actively working to fix it. I need to be clear about one thing though, this doesn't mean that you should flame yourself or get tilted at your own mistakes. The goal isn't to make yourself feel bad. The goal is just to take full accountability so you can actually improve. When you die in a round, instead of getting frustrated, you calmly think, okay, what could I have done differently here? That's it. No emotion, just analysis. This mentality also has another huge benefit. It makes you way less toxic in voice chat. When you're focused on your own gameplay and your own mistakes, you don't have time or mental energy to flame your teammates. And when you're not toxic, your teammates play better, which means you win more games. So starting right now, I want you to adopt this mentality. Everything is your fault. Every loss, every death, every failed clutch. It's all on you. Not because it actually is all your fault, but because taking that responsibility is by far the fastest way to improve and climb to Immortal.